Today we're going to talk about the loss of a child. Um, Sometimes miscarriages, sometimes losing a child who's older. And, it's never really an easy thing to lose someone. And when we lose our child, it just feels a little bit worse than when we lose a brother or our father or a friend. This year I actually lost my third child, and so this is a little bit difficult for me to talk about, but I want to use my pain in any way I can to help other people. Most of my videos deal with things that I've actually dealt with, anxiety and depression, those kinds of things, but with grief is just kind of a hard thing to do, because you'll be fine one day and then you'll get real bad and then you'll be fine again, and it's just kind of an ongoing process. So I want to look at this. One of the hardest things for me was the idea of why them. Why it's a terrible thing to outlive your child, and you always have these questions of why them, why not me. They didn't even get a chance at life, or maybe they only got a short chance at life, but here I am, and I'm still here and they're gone, and that's just a hard thing to deal with. Partly I think it's because of guilt, the idea that maybe we don't think that we're worthy to keep living, and we think that our child should have had more of a chance. And then I think part of why it's so hard is because it just feels hopeless, like it happened and there's nothing you can do about it. But it's something that when it happens, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but when it happens, that we find some way to accept what happened, and we find some way to move on. I don't mean that in like a cold kind of way, but there just comes a point when you have to accept that this is what happened. You don't have to like it, but it did happen. And I had a really hard time saying, God, why did you take this child from me? And I found that the more I asked the question, the more that no answer would be good enough. But when I stopped asking the question of why, and I started saying, God, you took this child from me, help me to be okay with that, it changed the way I thought. And failed expectations are really hard to deal with anyways, but when you're talking about the life of a child, it's very hard to deal with something that seems so unbelievably not fair. So first off, I just want to say sorry for your loss. I know what it's like, and it's something I wish I could have the right words, and I wish I could say something that would make it better. But really, there isn't anything that I could say. So I'm sorry that you have to go through this, and I genuinely hope that you're able to keep going and that you don't give up. As far as what causes the death of a child, I mean, specifically miscarriage, there's a lot of things that can cause a miscarriage. A lot of times it's absolutely nothing you did. A lot of times you couldn't have done anything different. You could have pampered your body, made sure you ate everything perfectly, made sure you took all your prenatals and everything. But sometimes it just happens. Sometimes the egg doesn't plant right. Sometimes the sperm and the egg, they meet and it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Sometimes there's something physically wrong with the child, and so your body attempts to, I don't know if there's a good way to say it, but flush the pregnancy. I don't know if there's an easier way to say that. But my point being, oftentimes there's absolutely nothing you can do. Sometimes, yes, miscarriages can be caused from a number of different things, physical abuse, a lot of alcohol, that kind of stuff. But to just assume that it was your fault is just completely wrong. Just completely wrong. Now, as far as when a child gets older, sometimes things just happen. And life just happens. And I think part of the beauty of life is in not having all the answers. And you just have to be okay with letting it go. So there's really nothing you can do. You know, sometimes people think if I would have done something differently, you can't let these kinds of thoughts go through your head. There's nothing you could have done. It's nobody's fault. It just happened, and it's time to move on. Don't blame it on you. Don't blame it on somebody else. It just happened. That's it. When you're going through these kinds of things, sometimes it's very difficult to remember really the good things. It's like at night, you know, you sometimes forget how bright the day is, and it's just something that happens. But focus on the good things, you know, the good memories. If you had a miscarriage and didn't even get to know the child, well, focus on the experience. Hey, you know, we got to experience that hope, even for just a little bit. And yeah, we ended up losing the baby, but at least we had that hope. To never have even felt that hope. Hope is very special, and it causes us to keep going. And as bad as it is that we lost the hope with the death of the child, it was still an experience, and it will make you who you are tomorrow. Also, the good memories, the good things that you had. If you lost your child after, you know, they had already had a chance for you to get to know their personality and that kind of stuff, well, focus on the time that you did have, not on the time that you don't have. Focus on the people who are there with you. If you've got family, if you've got a spouse or a partner, if you've got something like that, focus on that. Because although this is a very, very big bad thing, there's a lot of good things out there. And if we just open our eyes to them, sometimes we can even grow to appreciate it more than we would have. Yes, it does suck. It's not fair. I mean, there's nothing I can say about that. It is. That's just the way it is. But it still happened. And at the end of the day, the child is still dead. The quickest way to heal is to acknowledge the facts. But keep in mind that it takes people different lengths of time to work through the process of grief. It's not something you can rush in yourself and someone else. You know, sometimes you think I just want to better. I want to just move past this. It's a process. You know, I can just wake up one day and be able to say I'm okay. You know, give yourself time. Don't throw away your future because of the past. You know, don't resort to pointless fights with if you have any other kids. If you have anybody who's important in your life, don't throw away the future that you have with them because of this situation. It's in the past, and you can't do anything about that. But you can accept it and move on, move forward. Also, as a Christian, there's this hope that every day. I actually had a pastor friend tell me this last week. Every day is a day closer to getting to meet them or getting to see them again. It's not a day farther, and it's not a step taken away from them, but a step taken towards them. And I think that there's really something very comforting about that, knowing that this isn't the end. It's not the end. I don't know why it happened. I don't know why it happened to me. I don't know why it happened to you. It happened though. You know, some things happen because, you know, Satan's trying to destroy us. Some things happen because God's trying to test us. Some things happen because other people do what's wrong, and sometimes things just happen. Sometimes we don't live in a perfect world, and there's pain all around us, and sometimes things just happen. But thankfully, God can use anything. There's a song by Michael W. Smith that says, even what the enemy meant for evil, you work it for our good and for your glory. And that's very much so true. Oftentimes when we deal with things like grief, we take it out on someone else. And so just remember why you're really mad. See, what happens is we experience grief, and because we don't know how to process it, we go to anger. And so then we say, well, I need to stop being so angry. Well, you won't stop being angry until you deal with that grief, until you deal with that hurt. So just remember not to take anger out on others. It's not their fault. And oftentimes people will have no way of knowing what you're going through. So if you're not able to have a natural born child, sometimes people have a miscarriage or whatever, and they find out, oh, turns out that we aren't able to have, you know, a natural child. And I am sorry for that. It's very difficult to know that you'll never get to experience that. And once again, there's nothing that I can say that can make that feel better. But adoption is an excellent option. I'm not just saying that. Adoption is, there's these other kids that they don't have a home, they don't have a family, they don't have parents. And you're saying, hey, I know you're broken. And you know what, that's okay. And let's just spend this time together. And it really is a great opportunity. And you know, think about it, don't rush into it, but it might be just what you're looking for. It's important to remember that your spouse or partner, whoever you're with, whoever you made the baby with, they won't grieve in the same way as you. If they didn't want the baby in the first place, they're going to have a whole different reaction to it. If they did want the baby with, I'm assuming you did too, or else you probably wouldn't be having a problem with dealing with it. Maybe you still would, I don't know, I could be wrong there. But everybody grieves a little bit differently. You know, some people don't eat, some people do eat. You know, just give yourself some grace and give yourself some slack. You'll bounce back. Just give it time. I know it feels like you're going crazy, like maybe nothing really matters, but if you just hold on, situations change. Take the time to connect with people, with people who you have relationships with, your husband or whatever. Take the time to connect with them and really focus on healing. You know, when you've been really hurt by the loss like this, it's very, very hard to keep going and to like stay focused on anything. Really, it doesn't really feel like anything's important. But just take the time to heal so that you can move on. Because if you ignore it, it won't go away and you won't get any better. Read the Word, you know, stay in the Bible, stay in prayer. Oftentimes when we go through problems like this, we get angry and bitter towards God because something it's not fair. It's not what we wanted to happen. And you know, in my experience, the exact opposite is what really helps. You know, when you seek God more in the pain. The last point there is listen to encouraging music. You know, don't listen to a bunch of really emotional music. Find something that encourages you and read that. You know, sometimes you have to crawl, and sometimes you can't crawl. And so you just have to find somebody to drag you for a little bit, and then you can crawl a little bit more, and then you'll feel really good, and you'll be able to get up and walk again, and then you just kind of find yourself crumbling again. And it's just a natural part of the process of grief, and it's something that you have to deal with. You aren't the only one to deal with this. Lots of people have lost, and I know that doesn't really seem like anything, but maybe someday that'll mean something. That you can reach out to other people who have survived it, and who've kept going and who haven't given up. And one day you're going to be able to help other people who go through the same situation. If you have other kids, try not to neglect them. I know you're in pain, but especially if they're old enough to know, they're probably in pain too. And you have to be okay with them grieving, and you have to be okay with your grieving. Some kids will act out, you'll act out. Just have an attitude in the house of forgiving each other, and realize that you're all processing the information a little bit differently. Even babies and little kids understand that something's wrong. And sometimes when we're in a painful situation like this, we try to distract ourselves, getting a new job, moving somewhere else. And it makes us feel better for a little bit. It helps us to think that the pain's gone, and then one day it just comes on us real suddenly. The distractions won't help you. Wasting your money on things to make you happy, that's not gonna fix it. Switching jobs, switching, relationships, trying to maybe get a divorce, it's not gonna do anything. Those distractions won't help you heal and move on. You have to face it, and I know it's not easy, I know it's not pleasant, but that's the only way to heal. As with all situations of grieving, make sure that you stick with the normal grief things, the same things that you're going to do in depression, the same things you're going to do in other stuff. Exercise, make sure that you're getting out, and even going on a daily walk. You'll go out and it'll seem like the sun's not as bright, it'll seem as the days kind of just drag on, maybe it just kind of seems like things that are happening are just a blur. You have to build into tomorrow, trusting that tomorrow won't be the same as today. I know that's easy to say, but it's very painful. Eat healthy. I know some people don't eat when they're really going through grief. Eventually you're going to have to eat again. You're going to have to build up your strength. When you do eat, don't just eat a bunch of nonsense. Eat something that'll really help. Get out. Go meet with people, go breathe fresh air, whatever. Just get out. Keep getting up. Get up, take a shower. Take a shower every day if you have to. Just don't give up. And lastly, don't let your thoughts get away from you. You really have to control your thoughts, because they will run wild. You'll think things that you don't really mean. You'll feel things that you don't want to feel. And one thing that I was looking for is a real quick, one-stop, easy answer. Finding the perfect blog that will perfectly answer everything, the perfect video, the perfect song, the perfect whatever that will somehow make everything make sense, and then I'll be able to move on, and that this doesn't exist. I hope that this video helps you, but honestly there's a lot of other resources out there for people who have lost children too, and this is just a small piece. It feels like so little, but I'm trying to channel my grief into helping other people, and find something like that. Find some way to channel it. Don't let it be pointless. Don't let it be pointless. Reach out to others. Oftentimes people won't know what you're going through, especially in the case of like a miscarriage. And I know that every side says healing after a miscarriage, but honestly, I'm trying to be more inclusive towards losing a child, not just a miscarriage. When you're going through a miscarriage, you know, oftentimes people won't even know. You know, if you had a 4 or 5-year-old and they die, I mean, people know. But when you have a miscarriage, it's like nobody even cares. And you just feel kind of like, almost like you're betraying them or leaving them behind. But they're still dead. And you can't do anything about it. So reach out to others for help. And throughout the process of grief, you know, we go through these processes. 1 minute you're fine. Well, maybe a day you're fine, or maybe a month you're fine. And then you fall apart. And then you repeat the whole process. And then weeks will go by and you know what, I'm okay. And then all of a sudden you're not again. But the pain will ease if you deal with it. If you try and run from it, it won't. And it will retard your growth. It will retard your growth. And you'll find yourself fighting the same battle over and over again. It's really something you have to deal with. Once again, I'm sorry for your loss, and don't give up. You don't know what's in the future. You don't know what will happen tomorrow. But if you give up, you'll never get to see what happens tomorrow.